A debut album often serves as an artist's introduction, showing their potential, and sometimes the second album is what truly defines their career. In this video, we'll look at 10 sophomore albums bigger than the debut. Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. After breaking out with One of the Boys in 2008, featuring hits like I Kissed a Girl and Hot and Cold, Katy Perry had already established herself as a rising star. But nothing could have prepared the world for Teenage Dream. Released in 2010, Katy's sophomore album transformed her from a rising star to a global icon. With 5 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, California Girls, Teenage Dream, Firework, E.T., and Last Friday Night, she matched Michael Jackson's record for the most chart-topping songs from a single album. Commercially, Teenage Dream was huge. While One of the Boys debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200, went on to sell a respectable 12 million copies worldwide to date. Teenage Dream debuted at number 1, selling 192,000 copies in its first week, and eventually achieving over 28 million units sold worldwide. The album's undeniable pop hooks, infectious beats, and larger-than-life visuals set a new standard for pop music. Fearless by Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's self-titled debut album in 2006 positioned her as a promising country artist, with catchy songs that captured the essence of young love and heartbreak. But with her sophomore album Fearless, she rewrote the rules of country pop crossover success. Released in 2008, it was a maturation for Taylor's sound, demonstrating her uncanny ability to blend relatable lyrics with radio-friendly melodies. Hits like Love Story, You Belong With Me, and 15 became generational anthems. Fearless not only topped the Billboard Hot 100 when it was released, selling 592,000 copies in its first week, more than double the first week sales of her debut, but it also earned Taylor her first Grammy for Album of the Year. To date, Fearless has sold over 27 million units worldwide, eclipsing her debut's respectable 12 million. Fearless, Taylor's version in 2021, further solidified its legacy, proving that the album's impact transcends generations. Taylor's sophomore success story marked the beginning of her ascent to one of music's most successful artists of all time. 21 by Adele. Adele's debut album 19 showcased her soulful voice and raw talent, but it was her second album 21 that turned her into a household name. Released in 2011, it is a landmark in pop music history, becoming a soul-infused masterpiece born out of heartbreak. It ended the decade as the biggest album of the 2010s. Singles like Rolling in the Deep and Someone Like You dominated charts around the world, resonating with listeners of all ages. The numbers speak for themselves. 21 debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, selling 352,000 copies in its first week in the US, significantly outperforming 19, which sold a modest 34,000 copies in its debut week. To date, 21 has sold over 53 million units worldwide, compared to 19's 15 million. Adele's sophomore album went on to win 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, cementing her place in music history. 21's staggering success demonstrated that Adele could make the ultimate universal anthem, which cemented her as one of the greatest vocalists of her generation. My Everything by Ariana Grande. Ariana's debut album Yours Truly introduced her to the world with a blend of R&B and pop reminiscent of Mariah Carey. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with first week sales of 138,000 copies. It included hits like The Way and sold over 700,000 copies in the US by the time her second album My Everything was released, and My Everything catapulted her from emerging pop princess to a full-fledged superstar. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with 169,000 copies sold in its first week. The album spawned several massive singles, including Problem featuring Iggy Azalea, Break Free with That, Love Me Harder featuring The Weeknd, and Bang Bang with JCJ and Nicki Minaj. Each song dominated charts worldwide, showing Ariana's versatility. Cumulatively, the album sold over 16 million units worldwide. My Everything was a showcase of Ariana's growth and experimenting with different genres, which established her as a true pop star. Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson. As the first winner of American Idol, Kelly Clarkson's debut album Thankful was a solid commercial success, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and selling over 297,000 copies in its first week. With hits like Miss Independent, the album eventually achieved double platinum status in the US. However, her follow-up effort, Breakaway, redefined what a sophomore album could accomplish. Released in 2004, Breakaway sold a modest 250,000 copies in its first week, initially trailing the success of Thankful. But as the singles rolled out, it became a slow-burning juggernaut, featuring career-defining hits like Since You've Been Gone, Because of You, and the title track Breakaway. Kelly achieved massive crossover appeal. By the end of its run, it sold over 17.7 million units worldwide, outdoing her debut, which has sold over 4.8 million units to date. The album's anthemic pop-rock sound became a blueprint for her career and left a lasting impact on the 2000s pop music. Future Sex Love Sounds by Justin Timberlake. Following his boy band days with NSYNC, Justin Timberlake's debut studio album Justified marked his successful entry into the solo R&B and pop scene, debuting at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Over time, it sold over 3.9 million units in the US, establishing him as a solo star, but still leaving questions about his staying power. When Future Sex Love Sounds arrived in 2006, JT shattered expectations. The album debuted at number 1, selling a staggering 684,000 copies in its first week, outperforming Justified. With hits like Sexy Back, My Love, and What Goes Around Comes Around, he reinvented pop and R&B with futuristic production and addictive hooks. Executively produced by Timberlake, the album signaled JT's evolution from a teen idol to an adult pop sensation, paving the way for him to become a pop culture icon. The album has now sold over 17.2 million units worldwide and has become a legendary album. Fine Line by Harry Styles. Harry Styles' self-titled debut album was a strong showing from the former One Direction member, selling 230,000 units in his first week and marking his transition from boy band fame to a solo pop-rock artist. While the debut introduced his artistic ambitions, the follow-up, Fine Line, solidified them. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, moving an impressive 478,000 units in his first week, more than doubling his debut's numbers. Over time, the album would become a cultural staple, with hits like Watermelon Sugar, which earned Harry his first Grammy win. The album explored a blend of pop rock and indie influences, becoming a critical and commercial smash. Total sales figures and streams for Fine Line have eclipsed the debut, with the album selling close to 14 million units globally. Misunderstood by Pink. Pink's debut album, Can't Take Me Home, was a modest success, leaning heavily on the R&B sounds that were popular at the time, with hits like There You Go and Most Girls. It peaked at number 26 on the Billboard 200 and achieved double platinum status in the US. While the album showed Pink's potential, it was just scratching the surface. Enter Misunderstood, Pink's second album, which flipped her image and musical style upside down and marked a pivot towards pop rock. The results were electric. The album debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200, with first week sales of 220,000 copies, far surpassing her debut. Misunderstood would go on to sell more than 17 million units worldwide, becoming one of the best-selling albums of the 2000s, and giving the world hits like Get the Party Started and Just Like a Pill. Where Pink's debut showed promise, her sophomore effort solidified her as a fearless and versatile pop star. Beauty Behind the Madness by The Weeknd. The Weeknd's debut studio album, Kissland, continued the dark and moody R&B sound he established in his trilogy of mixtapes. While it was well received critically, it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and sold 95,000 copies in its first week, a respectable start for an emerging artist, but not a commercial blockbuster. Fast forward to 2015, and Beauty Behind the Madness completely transformed The Weeknd's trajectory. The album featured a more accessible sound, blending pop, R&B, and alternative influences. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, with first week sales of 412,000 album equivalent units, more than quadrupling the debut's initial performance. With hit singles like Can't Feel My Face, The Hills, and Earned It, the album has now sold over 18 million units globally. Beauty Behind the Madness was a defining moment for The Weeknd, transitioning him from a niche favorite to a global starboy. The pivot towards radio-friendly hits paid off, as it made him one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Take Care by Drake. Drake's debut album, Thank Me Later, was a strong start to his career, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 and selling 447,000 copies in his first week. It featured hits like Over and Find Your Love, but still felt like Drake was finding his sound. A year later, he released Take Care, and it quickly became a modern classic. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 631,000 copies in its first week, a notable increase from his debut. The album would go on to be certified 8 times platinum in the US and become one of Drake's defining projects, with introspective tracks like Marvin's Room and undeniable hits like Take Care featuring Rihanna. The album blended hip-hop and R&B in a way that redefined the genre. Take Care wasn't just a bigger commercial success, it established Drake as a dominant force in music. The album's critical acclaim, Grammy wins, and cultural impact solidified Drake's status as a superstar.